Hello, everybody, and welcome to this AFC South show, episode 38, with special guest today, Buck Reising from 104.5 The Zone. And then with me, as always, is Blake Bellamy. Buck, thanks for coming on, man. How are you?
I'm doing well, boys. I appreciate you asking me on, and hopefully I can keep your audience entertained for a little bit.
Oh, I've listened to your show. There's no doubt that we'll be thoroughly entertained. Blake, uh, how are you feeling about who the Titans should take in the first round?
First round, I'm actually kind of at a standstill. My ideal is if they trade back. We have only one pick. We have one from on the 26th overall, and then nothing till the 90th. So I think we need some more picks. Just keep rolling the dice till we hit something. I know Buck was talking about the other day possibility of Desmond Ridder going to the Titans there, and I would not be opposed to that at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Desmond Ridder scenario makes a lot of sense. It's not like they're going to have a better option at quarterback moving forward necessarily, unless your season goes to hell in 2022. And I'm sure for all intents and purposes, there's not really a reason for that to happen outside of, God forbid, some kind of catastrophic injury. So, I mean, if that's the best, we don't know what their draft board looks like, right? So we have no idea how this could go, much less it's impossible to predict in the 20s when you have no idea how the draft is going to break in front of them. But if they feel that he's the best player available on their board, and that makes the most sense at the time, given the depth at wide receiver and offensive line in the draft, then yeah, I think it's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I personally think the Titans should probably stay away from drafting offensive tackle. It just kind of hadn't worked in the first round. But any other position, I feel like they need to replace Roger Saffold. And like he mentioned, it really is kind of a rich draft in offensive linemen. So I think they could fill that void pretty quickly. Buck, what is a lesser talked about move for the Titans offseason that maybe should be getting more attention than it has?
As in like something that they've done or something that they need to do?
Something that they've done.
That's a good question because they haven't done a ton, right? Like it's just a bunch of special teams due to tight end and Robert Woods, which is all well and good.
Right.
Based on Mike Vrabel at the owners' meetings, I think that the Jamarco Jones signing may end up, Mike seems to feel like, in his own words, that the best football is ahead of him. And I know that there's nothing, overwhelmingly sexy about that, given that he's not a very well-known player, and that when the Titans played the Seahawks in week 2, T.R. Tart pretty well handled Jamarco Jones. So I don't necessarily know where Mike is getting that. Well, I mean, Mike watched a lot more Jamarco Jones than I did, and certainly knew him from his time at Ohio State in college. But just based on the small sample size, it's basically up for grabs at left guard and right tackle, and it sounds like they want to give him a go at left guard, which would assume that Dylan Radins is going to slot in at right tackle, but that seemed to be a bit of an issue last year. So I wish I knew more about what their plan was at offensive line, because it's not very clearly defined right now.
Yeah, no, it's kind of not been clearly defined since they let Conklin go, really. I mean, basically, they just constantly had a question mark at right tackle. Dennis Kelly was kind of a stopgap there for a little bit, and then they had to cut him for cap purposes. So, I mean, it's just kind of been a revolving door at that particular spot.
They should
the Conklin deal was ridiculous. He went to, I think he got paid $20 million in his first year in Cleveland, so they weren't going to be able to afford him.
No.
But yeah, the Dennis Kelly thing was problematic, and that's pandemic finances. Everybody had to cut corners like that. So unfortunately for them, that's kind of a position they've not been able to nail down since.
Yeah. Are there any moves that you'd like to see the Titans make? That they have maybe you've heard rumblings of, or just out of your pure fandom you'd like to see happen?
Well, I mean, I don't have a rooting interest other than what, more people listen to my show if they're good at football as opposed to bad at football. So I guess that would be preferable, but little disaster never hurt every once in a while.
It's true. How can you appreciate the good if there's no bad?
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. Also, I had some of the best ratings I've had on the show after the playoff collapse. So unfortunately, that's the dirty part of the media business. But anyway, Yeah, they're not really doing much. It's very much a practical offseason. I hate to cop out that way, but like you guys are pretty much done as far as the heavy lifting is concerned of free agency. And, I mean, if you looked at it on paper and said, all right, Austin Hooper, AJ Brown, Robert Woods, Derrick Henry versus any other collection of skill position players in the league, or at least in the AFC right now, you probably feel pretty good about that group of players. You know that the ACL situation is going to be something to monitor with Robert Woods, and you have precedent for that with Taylor Lewan and Bud Dupree last year. Took a little bit to get their feet back under them, for lack of a better term, and the draft's still ahead. So, I mean, given that they have they're like one of the teams with the fewest cap dollars remaining, even though that doesn't seem to matter for teams like the Los Angeles Rams. The Julio Jones money doesn't come into effect until after June 1, and that's basically for your draft class, to pay your draft class and to have your injured players pool and stuff like that. I mean, I don't think there's much else to be done at this point other than, some fringe guys that are coming as camp bodies and training camp or rather special teams, things of that nature. But for the most part, they did that already too.
Yeah. All right, so we'll kind of shift a little bit to some AFC South-centric questions. Do you think the Colts will fare better this season than they did with Matt Ryan than they did with Carson Wentz?
Yes, that is an indisputably better quarterback in Matt Ryan versus Carson Wentz. So, yeah, I think they should be appreciably better.
Okay. Blake?
Yeah, I agree. Matt Ryan's going to not throw into triple coverage. So that's the big thing. Carson Wentz, you just couldn't count on him. He was never clutch. Not saying Matt Ryan's especially clutch. He is much better than Carson Wentz in that aspect, but the turnover ratio is just so much more in Matt Ryan's favor. But yeah, and then
Buck not necessarily last year. I mean, to be honest with you, he only had 7 interceptions last year, even though he threw a hell of a lot more interceptable passes. Pro Football Focus does a good job at tracking those, and Matt Ryan had a bunch of red zone interceptions in the last couple of years. So, I mean, it's not as tilted in one side or the other the way that you might think it is. But
yeah, I just feel like a lot of Carson Wentz were just in clutch key moments that they just cannot afford an interception. And I feel like those 7 that they did see were just so much more impactful.
They're pretty bad.
Yeah. So it does with the Colts as well, though. Do you think Ballard is really worth all the hype that he's been getting credit for the last couple of years? I feel like he's gotten the 2018 draft class and then not a whole lot since then.
I mean, he made the Matt Ryan deal work. That's crazy. If anybody's been reading The Athletic and Zach Kiefer, basically they got bullied into trading away Carson Wentz a year after trading for Carson Wentz because the owner was sick of him. And, it could have blown up in their face if Cleveland didn't trade for Deshaun Watson the way that they did and make Matt Ryan available. But, I mean, to pull that out of your hat at the last minute when you look to be completely banged as far as every other quarterback not named Baker Mayfield, I mean, I think that's pretty good work.
Yeah. Do you think Baker's going to go anywhere? Or you think he's going to get cut, or you think he's going to get traded? More likely, to me, it sounds like he's going to get cut.
Nobody seems to want him. So, I mean, I don't. Seattle and Carolina both very much said that, well, not publicly said, but have been sending out messaging that they are not remotely interested in Baker Mayfield. Other than that, I don't know where he would go. But I guess if he got cut, like a team like the Steelers could do worse.
Yeah, that's true. Can Houston surprise and finish second in the AFC South this next season?
Second? No.
What?
No.
Realistically, third is possible because the Jags are just a dumpster
Jags
fire
are really bad,
franchise.
but I mean, you're riding into battle with Davis Mills. Godspeed.
Hey, he was 3 points away from tying it up late in that game. That's all I'm saying.
He was better than Trevor Lawrence was last year.
That's true, and I've been banging that table all offseason so far. I think he's got some upside, but we'll see.
Stranger things have happened, I guess.
It's true.
Yeah. I do think Davis Mills, though, I think he might have been one of the top quarterbacks in this draft class if he did stay.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's probably accurate. I think, just based on what we're seeing from the guys that are coming out, and there are some obvious limitations with them, and some of them, you're not quite certain how much, well, you know how little they've been asked to do at the college level. In the case of Malik Willis, that's one of the biggest question marks because Hugh Freeze runs what is akin to a high school offense. And that's not like, I'm not bashing Hugh Freeze when I say that. Like that's actual analysis from people in the league, much smarter than me when you talk to coaches about this stuff. He just wasn't asked to do very much that he's going to be asked to do at the NFL level. So it doesn't mean that he's not capable. And there's a couple of question marks around these guys this year to that effect. But yeah, there's just nobody at this point is discernibly going to make a difference to the franchise that they are drafted to right out the gate of the quarterback position this year.
Yeah. No, I mean, this draft class, I mean, you got like Corral, I think is kind of like the sleeper quarterback. And I think he's probably like the second best quarterback in the draft. And then after that, it's such a drop off.
I feel like Corral might go to the Titans with that ACL injury.
Well, if not, you can have Jameson Williams.
Yeah. I feel like Jameson Williams would be pretty good. That would be kind of a steal, just talent-wise. Yeah. The injury, it's always a risk, but obviously the Titans do not care about injuries, so Jameson Williams is very up for grabs. I think we'll probably take him.
Yeah.
I bet he's not there.
Probably not.
All right, so this is the last prepared question I've got for you. Are the Jags just allergic to holding on to money?
Well, no, they pay the our team sucks, come play for us tax that you have to pay when you are, I mean, any bad football team, you know, that's not, I mean, any bad football team that also is in a place like Jacksonville, right? Like, and that's not, you know, I'm not particularly a big fan of the city of Jacksonville, but it's not New York, it's not California, it's not Miami, it's none of these places. So yeah, you're inherently going to have to overpay to get people to come play for your football team, because if you're not going to win, you might as well get paid while you lose.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, but Christian Kirk's deal is ridiculous for a guy who's never even had 1,000 yards.
They're ridiculously bad, so they have to overpay in ridiculous fashion.
AJ Brown saw that contract and he was very excited.
Yeah, but I mean, this is, you know, this people shouldn't be as shocked by this. It's not like running backs are getting paid that kind of money. So the money that was paid to running backs in previous years is going to wide receivers in a way that you see, you know, I mean, Zeke Elliott, Christian McCaffrey, all those contracts are largely regrettable. And we don't know what Derek's next year is going to look like. All we know is that he counts towards a substantial part of their salary cap this year at a position where two guys off the street basically replaced him. So in that way, you're seeing that money go to tight ends and wide receivers, and more specifically wide receivers. So it's not like this is all of a sudden just a dramatic market inefficiency. This is where things have been trending. And also teams got $25 million extra this year after a 15.7, I think it was, $1 million reduction on the COVID cap. So, I mean, yeah, I guess, but like there's sticker shock every year and the money keeps going up because that's just the nature of the business of football.
Yeah. And I get that. And honestly, I just imagine it's Balky who's in charge, right? I imagine whoever is coming in to meet with the Jaguars brass is like, they look at a contract and then they just look back at Jaguars ownership and management. And then the Jaguars just like kind of do one of these. And then they bring up a Brinks truck. Mm-hmm. And like, just tell us how much. Tell us how much.
They don't even have to bring their own Brinks truck. Jalen Ramsey, I think, drove one to training camp a couple years ago.
That's hilarious. So Blake, do you have any more questions?
One quick question for you, Buck. I know you're an Indiana guy. Are you a Colts fan? Were you a Colts fan growing up at all?
No, I had zero sports allegiances until college, and I wasn't even going to do this until like my senior year of college. So yeah, I got nothing as far as I don't have an NFL team. This is just what I do for a job.
Gotcha.
Nice.
It's not bad.
Yeah, no, it's got to be a fun way to live. Definitely. That's kind of what we're trying to do. But thanks for coming on, Buck. I know you're a busy man, so we appreciate you coming on and talking with us for a little bit.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I love your show.
You guys take care. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
See you, buddy.
So again, a huge shout out to Buck Reising of 104.5 The Zone here in Nashville. We've called into his show a couple different times separately. So it was just a huge treat to have him on. And thanks, Buck, if you end up watching this. So that kind of brings me to another thing, because we brought up the local radio thing. The Titans are getting a new stadium. And from what I understand, the team actually offered to build the whole stadium out of pocket. And then Governor Bill Lee decided, hey, how's $500 million sound? Put a roof on that hoe. Just so we can host the Super Bowl here in Nashville. Now, generally, I don't have a problem with the expansion of a stadium or the improvements or building a new stadium. But we're, at this point, subsidizing a billionaire who already offered to build it. Maybe they weren't planning on putting a roof on it, but damn it, that's part of the allure of a Tennessee game is, like, being a Tennessee fan is hard because you're out there in the damn sun, but you're out there and you're having fun doing it. I mean, it's part of the atmosphere. It's going to be a different entire vibe there now. What do you think about this? Like, I don't see how this works out as a net positive for the city.
I'm on both sides. So I'm really right. Like, I understand both sides. I don't care what happens. If I know originally they were trying to just remodel it, but it was going to cost too much. So they're like, all right, if we're going to spend this much money, let's build a new stadium. And I agree with that. If you are going to do something like that, just build a new one.
Right.
However, if you are going to build a new one, then I want a dome. I want at least retractable. Because yeah, like you said, nice. Like Tennessee is nice most of the season. So yeah, it'd be nice to have a sunny game, but it rains a lot. Like that Houston game was miserable. So if we did have a dome, it would help that. Money wise, I think Bill Lee only wanted to do that just so they could have the revenue. Like I know, I think Los Angeles, they built it all by themselves, and even Jerry Jones, when he built Jerry World, Dallas was offering to pay like for a lot of it. He goes, nope, I want that money. So
right.
if he took Texas's money or Dallas's money, then he would have had to share the profits. And I think that's what Bill Lee wants to do. I think he just wants Tennessee. So I understand that it is a business decision. I know we have a lot more like pressing needs. Like, of course, our roads in Nashville are just god awful. A lot of infrastructure issues. And I understand that, but this it's not a once in a lifetime opportunity, but it is a big opportunity. And right now, it's like if you are going to build a new stadium within 5 years, you might as well just do it now.
Right. But my thing is the $500 million price tag. That it's not even it's not how much it's going to cost entirely. I think they're saying like 1.6 or something is a figure, maybe 1.2. Yeah. So the 500 million is roughly 40% of the lump sum for the total price tag, where the guy literally said that he would already build the damn thing out of his own pocket. Now I understand Bill Lee being like, the revenue from this would be incredible, but at the same time, like it will take so long to pay for that to pay off.
Mm-hmm. Also, they're going to get money regardless because, say we do get a dome, the Titans owner, Amy Adams, builds it all 100% on her own. The city's still going to get a lot of money from all the attraction it's going to get. I mean, if we had a Super Bowl, then every celebrity in the world here. I mean, hotels, just the hotel tax and sales tax and all of that. I mean, we're just going to make more money that way and just in general.
Exactly. And
that's where I kind of see that.
And you wouldn't start, if you did it with just pure Adams money, you wouldn't, as a city, start $500 million in the hole on this investment.
Yeah.
You're just reaping the benefits of people coming to this thing. I mean, if you want to host the Super Bowl, you have to reach all these different requirements that have nothing to do with the game itself. The stadium is one thing, but like you have to have X number of bowling alleys in the area. You have to have ample golfing opportunities. You have to have, oh God, what was it? There was something like mass transit. So, I mean, when New Jersey held the event, when they built their new stadium, they actually came out at a loss of $5.6 million for hosting the Super Bowl because of the transit situation that they had to provide for free. So, I mean, they're not necessarily, like, people aren't making a lot of money. The cities aren't making a lot of money when the Super Bowl comes to town because they're already spending so much on the front end that what they're getting is not necessarily enough. And it only will take, 30 or 40 years to make the money back.
34 years is a long time.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so I think it was
By then it'll be kind of like a new stadium anyway. And then just repeat the process.
exactly. And then you'll just continue being fucking perpetually in debt or in the hole on investments. And
Sounds
that's
like our government.
yeah, and that's kind of the problem. They just kind of keep kind of compounding the whole thing like idiots. But as a fan, I'm gonna love this stadium.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna miss the other one. Like I was talking earlier, like if we do get one, I definitely want to like try to get like buy a seat or something. Like anything like memorabilia from the old stadium would be pretty dope. Cause I mean, I used to have season tickets there as a child, and like I've been to countless games, so it'd be sad
Right.
to see the Coliseum go.
Right. The Delphi, the
Yeah.
Coliseum. What else was it?
LP Field.
LP,
and then
Nissan.
That was just the only. I always catch myself calling it LP Field. Like I almost
Yeah.
never say Nissan. That's always LP Field or the Coliseum.
Yeah. I
Or
think
the
they,
Titan Stadium.
yeah, the Titan Stadium is mostly what I call it, or the Coliseum, just
Yeah.
because the years where it
That's
just didn't
you,
have
man.
sponsors.
Yeah, but that's the absolute greatest. The Coliseum, like how could you not? Like if we get a new one, we gotta call it the Coliseum.
Oh,
Obviously.
absolutely, it has to be, and it would fit thematically with the city as far as like everything around here is Greek or Roman
Yeah, it's the
architecture
Athens of the
inspired.
South.
So I mean, it all fits. But and if it's got a retractable roof, that's awesome. But if it doesn't, I'm not gonna not go to a game when my favorite team comes in town
Oh, yeah, I'll
because
go
it's not a
see it
roof.
with that
I'm still
TV,
gonna
yeah.
go. So one of the things that I was looking at when I was trying to figure out if like even trying to host the Super Bowl was a good idea was the NFL basically predicts that your city will make between 300 million and 500 million gross, and it turns out to be between 30 million and 130 million net for each. There are like I think in the last like 10 years there have been 4 cities that have reported losses after the Super Bowl, like Glendale, Miami, New Jersey, and
The Minneapolis. I know they host
yes,
season.
Minneapolis. Minneapolis did not have a good time with that.
That's a
'cause-
garbage city too.
Well, yeah.
Hey, we
Shouts
live there.
to Minnesota.
I mean, I love Minnesota, the Twin Cities, but it's a little fucked up out there.
It is. It's kind of ass backwards. You go up there and you're like, oh, cool, it's Minnesota, Vikings fans and stuff. And I'm expecting, I don't know why I was expecting more urban. And I mean that is in the sense of like, there's a lot more like city life type things in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And it was definitely not. It's literally like just the Twin Cities and then sticks. So
Flat land, and then go to Wisconsin.
yeah, basically, it's like flat land all the way to Canada, Wisconsin, North Dakota, and South Dakota,
Yeah,
or Iowa if you're feeling frisky.
yeah.
But I mean, it's still kind of whack. Anyway, so let's just say that the Titans build this stadium. It takes 4 years to build it. I don't know the actual. It probably like 3 to 4 is probably pretty realistic.
Yeah.
So you're already waiting 4 years before you can even start to use the stadium. And then they're talking about all the benefits of being able to host more events in the stadium, like more concerts and stuff. And a lot of people are like, oh, that'll drive up revenue. But there's a thought process of, are people actually changing their spending habits because of the Super Bowl? Like, are more people, instead of going to, say, Chuck E. Cheese, for example, are people more likely to go to the Super Bowl or to Chuck E. Cheese if the Super Bowl's in town? Or is it a normal situation where, like, currently in Nashville, there's 20% occupancy in all the hotels, and the NFL comes in town and it fills up the rest of those hotels?
Yeah, definitely. That's what it's mostly like hotel, like taxes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Cover their best food tax because everyone's gonna be going out to eat.
right. but we as Tennesseans, we've made it to where we don't actually get taxed a whole hell of a lot on a lot of different stuff.
And I'm afraid if this does happen, there's gonna be income tax, which God, I hope not.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
please God,
Tennessee.
no. I would, yeah, I'd be peacing out so quickly. I'd be moving to Texas.
You know, Texas, Nevada, Florida,
I think South Dakota,
South
and
Dakota,
Alaska.
Alaska. Yeah, those are the states.
And is Alabama in that one?
No, Alabama has state tax.
Communist.
Mississippi doesn't.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah, one of those gutter towns,
Gutter states.
gutter
Sure.
state.
But shouts to Mississippi. Oh man.
I guess.
All right, folks. This has been a very colorful and very exciting episode of this AFC South show, number 38. Thank you for coming on, Blake. Thanks for always being here. Got any closing remarks?
No, man. Thanks, Buck, again. Thank you. It was awesome.
Hell yeah. Thanks. And thanks for watching. Go ahead, leave a like and subscribe, no matter where you're watching, Facebook, YouTube, wherever. And as always, be good people.